How do you work from 8 to 5, have only weekends free, and not feel like you're wasting your life? Story 1. Stay grounded in how bad a human existence can get, war, famine, torture, etc., and suddenly a stable working life seems okay. Unfortunately, this is why and how the working class is so easily exploited. Story 2. I've been trying to make the most of my 8 to 5 routine by focusing on the little things. I use my evenings hobbies or something productive and plan weekends around stuff that excites me instead of just recovering. I've started setting long-term goals and using this time as stepping stone, which helps a lot. Even small things like enjoying a good podcast during my commute or quiet coffee moment make a difference. It's not perfect, but it feels more meaningful this way. Story 3. Honestly, the only solution is to take life less seriously and realize the absurdity of everything. Like, this all doesn't matter at the end of the day. Careers, currency, it's all just an abstraction that means something only because we said so. So realize having some perfect career or perfect plan in your life is a completely fabricated concept pressured onto you like you have to be doing it. You literally don't. You can do anything you want and there's no right or wrong or rule book to it. Literally just focus on what you enjoy while you're alive. It's the only say you have. Story 4. Get off of social media. Seriously, people feel like life is passing them by, but spend most of their waking moments with their face in a phone. What do you do after 5 p.m.? What time do you go to sleep? If you work until 5 p.m. and go to sleep at 10:30 p.m., this gives you 5.5 HRS every day to do things you enjoy. We're not as busy as we think we are. We're just distracted. Story 5. I work in IT, mostly from home. Sometimes I only have 15 minutes of work a day. Some other days more. I'm honestly living my best life thanks to my career. Sometimes when I wake up and look out the window to see workers blowing out leaves at freezing temperatures, I feel guilty. Life is not fair, but it can be good. Story 6. I am a service tech that travels domestic and international to repair machines that specifically manufacture parts for firearms all the way up to tanks. It's a challenging but very rewarding field, especially when it's up to you to get a critical machine back online. It's worth missing home, but I do have a fiance who understands and is very supportive of what I do. It's all what you chose as a career and who you decide to spend your life with. Story 7. The alternative. I don't mind sacrificing my free time to have certainty in terms of housing, transport, food, heating, etc. I have seriously considered the alternatives. A few years ago, I knew I wanted to leave my job. I couldn't get a house. Rent was expensive, and I looked into the viable alternatives. I was quite close to selling everything, buying a motorhome, living where I could, touring the continent. Previously did it for months, staying in hostels, etc. Doing what I could to earn money, etc. I'm happy when camping. I had lots of plans for self-sufficiency. I wouldn't miss many modern comforts, etc. Hell, I looked at moving to Canada and living off the land. But in the scheme of things, it's not as attractive an option. I can get up, go to work, earn good money, go home exactly when my contract says, which previous workplaces tried their damnedest to stop, hence why they are previous workplaces, and have money enough to make use of the free time. Buying nice appliances so I get more of that time back. Paying for a house, heating, food, and modern facilities so I don't spend my free time chasing the next meal, gathering food, chopping wood, etc. I get sick pay and months of warning of any change in my job situation, etc. Sure, if I was a millionaire and had a guaranteed fallback plan and no need of an employer ever again, things would fall differently. But that's not what the likely case is. The likely case is I have a few years out of civilization, struggle and worry. It's hard work and not fun. I have to avoid injury, find work anyway, etc. And then destroy a long, consistent career in the process. Why do I go to work? Because it's the best value for the least hassle, especially if your employer is actually good. I would have been happy enough in a camper van touring Europe for a few years, sure, but I'm pretty happy instead now owning a house, being warm, a full larder fridge and freezer, lots of time to myself, and I can just choose to have a day off or a lie-in or do nothing without knock-on effects. And now consider what could have happened in that time. Brexit hit. I would not have been able to tour or work in Europe and would have had to spend the majority of time in the UK. Economic crisis. No work, no money, no fallback, no savings, no house. COVID not only would have that stop touring, but it would put a stop to many jobs, put severe restrictions on my life. As it is, I went to work still because of my profession, got paid still, and had security throughout that period. Immigration changes, war even. As it is, I have a job, a house, and some security based on doing what pretty much everyone in the developed world does. Go to work. Sure, I could earn less, I could work from home, I could travel and work, etc. But those options are less attractive to me than you might think, because they all come with an element of risk, a value proposition that doesn't necessarily balance based on my preferences, and problems that I don't currently have to deal with. Story 8. The key is finding meaning in your work and balancing your life. Focus on personal goals, make the most of your free time, and seek growth opportunities in your career. Remember, work is just one part of life. Invest in relationships, passions, and personal well-being for a fulfilling life. Story 9. Welcome to the rat race. Because work time is not just the time you spend at your work, it's also commute time, getting dressed and clean time, breakfast time, and on the other end, commute home time, de-stress time at home, changing out of work clothes if you're one to do that, etc., etc., etc. So time associated with work can stretch from 8 hours to 9, 10, 11 hours for lots of people. And frankly, my mind is kind of shot by the time I get home, and I just want to withdraw from consciousness of the world for a couple of hours. FML. Story 10. I was a chef before and did 15-hour shift daily, worked weekends and bank holidays. I recently transitioned to an office work environment, and I'm loving the freedom I'm getting. I don't feel like wasting my life. I've worked in a tough and demanding industry, and a lot of people in the office have no idea how difficult other industry can be. Story 11. Working 8 to 5 doesn't have to feel like a waste if you reframe it. Think of it as funding your dreams, hobbies, and future self. Your weekdays might build stability, but your evenings and weekends are where the magic happens, exploring passions, creating memories, and designing a life that feels uniquely yours. Story 12. Feeling like you're wasting your life in a traditional 8 to 5 job can stem from a lack of alignment between your work and your personal values or passions. To combat this, focus on maximizing your time outside work. Pursue hobbies and set personal goals that excite you. If your job itself feels stifling, consider exploring roles that bring you more satisfaction or flexibility. Story 13. Believe it or not very long ago, people didn't work 8 to 5 with only weekends off. They worked sunup to sundown, every day except Sunday, only in some countries, not by choice. Then get this, they didn't get paid. They were growing their own food and praying that it didn't catch disease or go bad or run out before the cold seasons ended. So your life or mine or anybody else's aren't so special that our time on this earth is worth enough to even waste. In fact, it's disposable because you're using it up regardless. So go to work, pay your bills, live right, and don't bother other people. Story 14. The main thing I consider is that until about 75 years ago, almost everyone in history endured exponentially worse just to stay alive, much less live in total comfort. And that's still the case for a massive percentage of the world's population. I think about that as I'm sitting in my pajamas in my home 3 days a week, or I'm in an air-conditioned, heated office with people I mostly like the other 2 days. And I'm free to use the internet for personal reasons the entire time. And I can eat and drink whatever I want, whenever I want, whether at home or at the office, which provides free snacks and drinks to include beer and wine. And I know that my family, 2 incredible, thriving children, and a wife who is capable of extraordinary things and who has expanded my world beyond what I thought it could be. And I have decent health insurance. And I get to pay for nice things on those weekends, nights off, holidays, and 3 weeks of vacation a year. And yeah, I also think about how my job sucks a lot of the time. But mostly it feels less like I'm wasting my life and more like my life is actually pretty good and nice. Story 15. Perception. Try to make the most of what little time you have. Maybe plan an activity one weekend every month so that you have experiences you can look back on. Always take your vacation days. Don't let slip away. You work hard, so use them. Not every workday is going to be 100% hectic. On those slower days, you can make plans to do what you want to do in the evening, whether go out or just sleep lol. Story 16. I occasionally work 60, 70 hours weeks, and it keeps things in perspective. 40 honestly isn't even that much compared to people generations before us, or in other parts of the world currently. I, for the most part, work 4 10-hour shifts, which helps a ton. A 3-day weekend just feels so much more refreshing and fulfilling. Story 17. Here in Europe, you usually get 28 to 30 days off a year. Some big companies even do 35 H weeks and not 40, but most end up working 40 anyway, with compensation of course. So it is not that bad. Some of my friends negotiated a reduction to 4 days work week with salary sacrifice, and they all said it is definitely worth it, provided you earned enough to be able to continue with 80% of the initial salary. Story 18. I like what I do every day, and my work is impactful to our nation's security. It's challenging, and there's always something new to learn, which in turn can make me more money and grow my career further. I have a great team at work, and we generally have a good time together when we see each other in the office a couple times a week. Perspective is a hard thing to capture. How can you really feel happy if you've never been really sad? How can you appreciate a job that pays you well and puts a roof over your head and food on the table if you've never been homeless, hungry, and impoverished? I'm not sure how I'd spend all my free time if I didn't work, and the phrase, "an idle mind is a devil's playground," rings true for me. Maybe a job at a national park, picking up trash and keep the place clean. One day I'd like an outside job when I retire from the tech industry. Maybe captain a Baltimore City trash boat 36 hours a week, scooping up litter with the conveyor belt. I used to watch those guys from our office chilling in the air-conditioned cab watching TV on their iPad, putting around the harbor with a big cup of coffee. Always thought that was a pretty good gig. Story 19. I enjoy my job and make the most out of my time there. Coworkers, at least some, feel like a second family. I don't dread going to work. Is it tiring and hard sometimes? Yes, but very rewarding. I have 2 days off and I get lots done those days. I don't take naps because I hate to waste my time off sleeping. Probably an unpopular opinion, but that's just me. Story 20. I think the most important thing is to find what brings you joy and recharges you and use your free time and well-earned money that a job affords you to do that. It's not ideal, but feeling like you're actually using your free time on stuff that fills your soul makes the balance easier to strike. Story 21. I'm 54 and have given up on the rat race. I'm cruising through the next 5 years until I can get to my retirement money, and then I'm going van life or rural cheap living. After 27 years in a high-pressure industry, I just can't anymore. Selling everything I own in the coming years and hope to have a peaceful final 10 years, all the men in my family early 70s, so I have that going for me, which is nice. Quality over quantity, and you can't take it with you. Story 22. I don't love my job, but I like it. I clean offices after they close, and I'm left alone to do my job, and I listen to music, podcasts, or audiobooks. I can get physically tired, but my job being so peaceful makes it easy to enjoy life when I leave. I don't dread going back the next day, and I don't get the Sunday night depression anymore. Story 23. I realize that I go to work to earn money to use that money to do things I can't efficiently do for myself. I'm not going to build a house, I need someone to make one for me. That's money. I need to eat, I don't want to hunt and forage, so I need someone to make food for me to buy with money. Once you realize you're going to work is more effective than you doing these things for yourself, you'll appreciate that that's all you have to do. It doesn't even need to be a threat of homelessness, like the top comment there. I think just understanding that you work instead of doing each individual task yourself is better. Being told to work or you'll be homeless just sounds like a threat, which feels bad. It's also incorrect. You always have a choice. Story 24. There is no external force that is going to provide meaning for you. You get to decide what gives your life meaning. If you are not fortunate enough to have a job that helps provide this, then seriously analyze your life and what brings you joy. A lot of the things you waste your time on are likely doing nothing for your well-being. For example, browsing Reddit obsessively. Figure out what brings you joy, and then make time for it through whatever means necessary. You gotta work, you gotta sleep, you gotta eat, but there are 100 small things that you might be able to cut corners in to find the time. This is not what other people tell you is important. Does playing video games bring you joy? Do it. Make time for it. Cut out people who say you are wasting your life by playing them. They're only bringing you down. Find other friends who share your interests. Story 25. I was unemployed for 2 years. Nothing felt like more a waste of my life than that. I had no purpose, no goals, and no money. My life was stagnant, but I was still aging. Now, I'm doing a job that I enjoy 70% of the time, and that's given me money to further my education in the direction of a career path that I think I will also enjoy 70% of the time, but will make me 3 times the money and offer more benefits. With an income now, I can also do more activities I enjoy in my free time, and my free time generally has more value. When I was unemployed, I didn't value free time because all of my time was free. Now, I get more done per hour in my free time than when I was unemployed. You will never find a job that you like 100% of the time. Even if you turn a hobby into a career, you will grow to resent parts of it, and it will lose its luster. But I will take a job that I like 50% of the time over unlimited free time any day. You also don't have to have an 8-5 MF job. Pilots don't, freelancers don't, truckers don't, many nurses don't. There are plenty of jobs out there, beyond my examples, that either have unique hours or where you can set your own hours. If you think a job should be a miserable 8-5 MF grind, then by self-fulfilling prophecy, your job will be. Story 26. I remind myself that not too long ago, we had little recourse against plagues and from simple infections. And before that, we toiled endlessly to grow crops and raise animals to avoid starvation. And before that, we were hunter-gatherers and were constantly on the move and on guard from predators. Yeah, I'll take an 8-5 over all that any day. Story 27. Good question. I always felt that I was wasting my life working all those hours irrespective of career choice, which I changed a few times during my working career. By 30, I'd made the decision to get off the treadmill ASAP, but realized that I would only be able to do that if I made a lot of money or ensured a good passive income stream going forward. I was very fortunate to find the right business at the right time, LPG distribution, and was able to finally exit the rat race a little later than I would have liked at 50. I'm in my mid-60s now, and have enjoyed the past 14 years immensely. I'm grateful and consider this a blessing. I suppose it's all a mindset at the end of the day, because if you enjoy what you do for a living, then well and good. But if you hate going to work, it's another story. Consider the fact that your employer essentially buys your limited time for a specific sum. He buys your lifetime, which you can never get back. I find that fact quite depressing. Story 28. I work 6, 2:30, not 8, 5, and trust me when I say it makes a huge difference having afternoons free. I'm also WFSO, no commute, 2, 3 p.m. I have a beer and join tea in each hand. I had an 8, 5 within 1/2 hour commute, always pressure to work late. So it was really like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily, which did indeed feel like I was wasting my life away. Story 29 turns out, I don't. I enjoy what I do for a living, physical therapist assistant. However, when me and my wife are nothing in the PT world and we barely make ends meet because of childcare costs and not being anywhere near other family due to no opportunities in that area, and oh, being a nightmare ever since we left, it really feels like I'm just kicking the can down the road most days. Story 30. I have a really good set of coworkers and a great boss I feel like I can joke around with. That, and the acknowledgement that I possess the freedom to do whatever I want in this life is strangely liberating. I think letting go of the seriousness and soul-crushing facets of an 8-5 and realizing that life isn't that serious to be helpful as well. IDK, maybe I just don't hate my job. Story 31. Real talk, I accept that I have responsibilities to others that I need to uphold and that my life isn't just about me. Some people work more than others do. Some people work differently than others do. Life has no guarantees of fairness, but everyone has to work to some degree or else nothing works. So I work and try to find a balance. Is it perfect? No, nothing ever will be. That's life. Story 32. Try 12-15 plus hours a day, any and sometimes all days of the week, in any weather situation, on any holiday, birthday, reunion. I worked that for 20 years. Now I work MF 8-4. With evenings, weekends, and most holidays off. I might still be wasting my life from your perspective, but I'm definitely wasting it in a more comfortable way than I used to. Story 33. Have you ever watched any of the more realistic wilderness survival shows? The amount of time, energy, and mental stress involved with existing in that type of environment is way harder work than what I do from 8 to 5. Existing takes work no matter if it's an office job or foraging for food. I happily work my 8 to 5 knowing that I have a reliable way to provide food, shelter, and entertainment for my family. Story 34. Reframe your perspective. Working those hours allows you to do what you want with your time off, feed yourself, etc. It isn't a waste of your life, it enables the rest of your life. I enjoy having a roof over my head. I enjoy not starving. I enjoy traveling, hanging with my wife and dogs, playing video games, and hiking. Working 8-5 allows me to do all of that. Story 35, hate your job, I feel for you. I like my job. Now, I wouldn't do it if they didn't pay me, or if I won the lottery, but I like it. I repair HVAC systems at a local university. Excellent benefits, not a grueling, fast-paced environment, and a good group of people to work with. I'm very lucky in that regard. However, if you absolutely dread what you do every day, yes, it can seem like there's more than sunshine. Story 36. Long-term goals. I work 9 to 7 and have a newborn, but if the night goes well, I will gym from 5:30 to 7 a.m., and if the evening goes well, then I'll study genomics for as long as I can before bedtime. I compete in bodybuilding, and I also have a passion for and a strong personal motivation to conquer genomics. So those two activities are personal indulgences that help punctuate the day-to-day. Trying to be a good dad is another fulfilling long-term goal too, of course. But if I want to look back at my life in X years and truly feel like I achieved something, I would need at least some personal accomplishments sprinkled in there. Story 37. If you're only working 8 to 5 and have weekends free, that's awesome. You have 2 entire days free to do whatever you want to do. I generally wash clothes Friday night, take 2 hours to clean the place up on Saturdays, then the rest of the time is mine to do as I please. You realize there are people who work 7 days a week either because of necessity or they're workaholics and have absolutely no free time. Story 38. I've taken the stoic path and simply accept life for what it is. I'm simply a byproduct of my environment. I cannot control what happens outside of my power, but what is within my power is doing everything I can to raise a healthy and happy family. That alone is motivation enough for me to wake up in the morning with a positive attitude. Don't dwell on that which you cannot control. Often it only furthers your worries. Focus on what you can and make that your world and your purpose. Story 39. All I'll say is that happiness means something different for everyone. As outlandish as it may all seem to you, there are many that simply enjoy having a normal, regular job with fixed hours, instead of starting businesses and becoming billionaires and clawing their hair out to be able to have as uncomplicated a life as possible. Story 40. Life is what you make it. I do whatever makes me happy when I'm not working. Whether it be sleeping, watching a good romantic comedy, going to the gym, or a walk around the neighborhood going shopping, occasionally meeting up with a friend, or pulling out my karaoke microphone and singing and dancing my butt off makes my day. Story 41. It's hyperbolic to say you only have weekends free. You have evenings also. It's not bad if you're doing something you're good at and possibly enjoy doing, i.e. something engaging. That's the key. If you aren't engaged, you'll hate anything you have to do 8 hours a day, and even more so if it doesn't pay enough to support doing what does engage you. Story 42. As a single person, it does not bother me much. I still do martial arts and exercise 5 days a week. I still have time to go out with friends and do fun things on the weekend. I have time each night and some in the morning to play with my cats. It could be better, but it could be way worse. Be thankful you have a job and money. Many people want jobs but do not have them. Many people don't have running water, electricity, or other things we take for granted. You literally have a device that allows you internet connectivity and access to pretty much all human knowledge. Shift your attitude, stay in the moment, and be grateful for what you have. Each second spent worrying or complaining is a second you could have been enjoying your life. Story 43. My 9 to 5 provides for my family. They have food, shelter, healthcare, and a solid middle-class lifestyle. In what way is that a waste? Taking care of my family is the single biggest driving force of my motivation. Unless we get to the point that AI can run things for us and robots can do all of manual labor, I'm not sure what the alternative would be. Story 44. Well, for me, it starts with this idea that nobody owes me anything, and everything comes from somewhere right. And so why should I feel entitled to just consume and enjoy things around me with no effort on my part at all in building or creating anything? Even hunters and gahirers had to get of their ass and, hunt and gather, build themselves a shelter from the elements, keep a fire going, farm the land. But I guess I could maybe go to some deserted land and live off the land, which would mean hunting, fishing, for food, planting stuff to grow and eat. That will certainly take some work. Lots of it up front at first to finally get a return on my efforts. Then I also need a roof over my head and to get a fire started to keep me warm. So there's more work there. And then I guess I should share it all with anybody who comes along and just wants what I have. Didn't help me hunt and fish or farm or build my home shelter. The choice to work or not work, or doing what I choose to do and not do, is always mine. Even animals in the wild have to get after it to eat and survive. Then there is the winning lottery ticket, of course. But what sucks there is that you have to buy the ticket, lots of them, to maybe win someday. Almost like searching and hunting for food, making the kill, but the odds are better with hunting. Man, life is a lot of work. Why can't the world just Kyomi to me, hand me my food on a plate, in a room where I'm nice and comfy and warm? Like mommy and daddy did when I was a child. Story 45. This question pops up every week/week and a half, almost verbatim, or so. Go have a look at those posts. I make plans in my off time, use all my PTO, and most importantly, I don't get off of work and get home and sit on my phone until I go to bed. I interact with other human beings. To be able to do all of this, I need my 8-5. Story 46. I have a 9-6 job I find interesting enough and makes me feel accomplished, though not so much that I would do it if I didn't have to. And I make small progress on personal projects and goals every day. I study Japanese and/or write on the train. I do 15 minutes of music listening exercises during my lunch break. I go to the gym for 30-40 mins after work. Recently, I translated a book into English, 1 or 2 pages a day for 6 months. Once or twice a week after the gym, I eat and drink at a local bar and try to chat with other people there. And then, on the weekends, I socialize and do activities. I did actually have a period of several years when I was underemployed and also quite depressed. And despite having vastly more free time, I didn't actually live more than I'm doing now. If you spend time aimlessly scrolling or watching Netflix, that tends to expand to fill up the entire time available. And at the end, you still don't feel like you've actually relaxed. It's counterintuitive, but the things that energize me are frequently things that I feel about starting. And when I prioritize avoiding pain and conserving energy, I end up not getting much joy either. You gotta lean into the suck, I guess. Story 47. I work a flex schedule where I have every other Friday off, use PTO/sick leave as needed, and I'm lucky enough to work from home so I can get plenty of things done during the days I work in between actually working. Plus, I'm a federal employee, so they're very strict, my agency anyway, about us not working overtime and making sure we take days when we need them. Story 48. You live for the weekend, evenings, and your holidays. It helps if you get a decent paycheck, of course. I had a few years like that, and it wasn't easy, even on a decent salary, and in relatively stimulating work, teaching, translating. What seems horrendous to me is when people don't get a decent amount of holiday time. At worst, I had 2 to 3 weeks in the summer, a week or 2 at Christmas, and a few other days throughout the year. When I hear that people work 5 days a week every week for years, I hope they really love their jobs. Story 49. That's why you should have a job that you like. Humans, like all creatures, always have to do things to survive. Centuries ago, it was hunting and gathering. That wasn't optional. Animals still do that. We created a society in which we can do more than hunting and gathering. But now we have to fill Excel documents with meaningless numbers. We have to do that. Otherwise, we don't have a bed to sleep in or a meal to eat. If you don't want to waste your life with filling Excel documents, then go look for a job with meaning or that you like. It might not make as much money, but not a single day feels like you waste it. Story 50. Gonna acknowledge my privilege up front by growing up in lower middle class, like early 90s, lower middle class, back when that still existed, and having scholarship opportunities. But I picked a career that allows me to help people regain function in their lives and have less pain, physical therapist. Makes the work feel less of a waste, because both from a financial workforce perspective, keeping people active and working as they're able, and a personal fulfillment, helping is nice standpoint, I get a lot of job satisfaction. A lot of administrative burden these days, but getting kids back to sports and helping grandma walk after a hip replacement, among many other things, is pretty meaningful. Story 51. I eventually found the FIRE movement, which soothes my anxiety. Out of college, found myself in a cube for more than 40 hours a week, plus long commute. Then I decided to take a lower-paying job at a university near my house. After that, The wife and I moved for better paying jobs, which was 15 years ago. Since making more than we spend, we paid off the house in under 5 years. I figured that gave us flexibility, but the feeling still wasn't there. And all of a sudden, we had money left over each month. From there, I opened a brokerage account and started investing, but not the best way to do it. Fire comes on the radar. Since we have bought VTI/QQQ/SCHD, now at 42, we are approximately 3 years from being financially independent. I have been working remotely full-time since right before COVID happenstance. Some days I feel partially retired and other days still hate work. Long story short, find an exit ramp sooner and enjoy the journey, meaning take trips, go to the movies, whatever you like to do. In my mind, and from watching others who could retire, it's amazing how perspective on work changes when it's optional. Story 52. Work is a gift of God. Work gives meaning to life, purpose. Without work, without contributing to society in a meaningful way, you truly are wasting your life. There are many people who are actually forced to retire, and some, when they do retire, miss the work that they did. Not all work is dreary and tiresome. Much work is very rewarding and fulfilling. Story 53. I am driven by my desire to retire early and stop working. Look into FIRE, financial independence. Retire early. I'm hoping to retire at 45, or at least switch careers and go part-time when I have enough passive income. But yeah, the day-to-day is boring, which is why I spend so much time on Reddit. Story 54. Why does everybody forget that evenings exist? That's 6 or 7 hours every day you're free to do what you please. Plus statutory holidays. Vacation. You actually only work like 25% of the year. Then there's childhood and retirement. Brings it down to like 10 to 15% of your life. Anyway, I understand the spirit of your question. We work all day, and it feels like it defines your life. Well, it kind of does. That's the culture we live in. So make the most of it. Save. Invest. Get to a point where your job isn't defining your life because you're making substantial passive income. Yes, that will take decades for most people, myself included. But to me, that's the motivation. Taking a portion of my paycheck and investing it in my future so that one day I don't need a job. This might just be me, but I love challenges and progression like this in my life. You ever play a video game with cheats? It's really fun for a bit, but then you realize that enjoyment comes from challenge. Additionally, nobody said you had to hate your job. Do something you're proud of or that engages you, or both. You don't need a university degree to have a profession that makes you feel good. Life is full of flaws and imperfections. Every generation has had them. But try not to forget that life in 2024 is better than it ever has been in history. And that includes areas like work and life balance. A lot of people who feel this way are probably young and not established yet, and I can for sure see the argument that that's unfair. But it gets better. It won't be given to you. You have to seek it out and try, but you have decades to figure it out. And if you do, you will have a fruitful future. Story 55. Work is an important part of life. Since man stepped on this planet, we had to work in more than 8 hours without benefits and air conditioning. Working gives you purpose. All the people I know that don't work are depressed. Some people even work after retirement. Being able to work is a gift. Change your mindset. Story 56. I did feel like I was wasting my life, which is why I chose to stop working, although I do have the investments to support myself and didn't plan on using those until I officially retired. But I hit my breaking point. I'll probably go back to work at some point in the future, but for now, I'm making up for lost time. I don't even know if I'll be alive by the time I can officially retire, so I might as well enjoy it while I can. Story 57. Slavery wasn't abolished, it was perfected. Trick is to live a miserable Spartan life and save money until you're 40. 45. No partying, no expensive cars, no loans, no luxuries, etc. Then you buy a cheap isolated plot, build a cheap mini house. Then get into homesteading. This way you can retire while still young and play video games the next 20 plus years till you're old. It's even easier to pull off if you find a like-minded GF to do it with, but GL with that. You definitely don't want children if you plan on doing it, unless you have them early so they're adults when you move off-grid. I'm not talking full-on off-grid prepper-style living here, but in investing in something in between. I don't see another way out of the modern-day slavery rat race as it is right now. Even if you max saving and spending, you still need to waste half your life as a wage slave if you want to quit working at 40, 45. Because even with a lot of savings, if you want some comfort down the line and lots of unforeseen expenses could come up and you need to prepare for that. The true insanity of modern-day humans is how we collectively put up with this. Global societal collapse would have many in the violence and hardship, but at least we'd be free. The 1% sits on 90% of the world's wealth, so the work ethic argument is meaningless. As it is now, modern society is a perverted evil. Then you have Johnny Depp winning $1 million in the lottery. Who could live a good life without work until he S? But he wastes it in 1 year and is back in the office the next. Story 58. You people are ridiculous. 200 years ago, surviving past infancy was a 50-50th proposition. Those that did survive had to work in fields all day, every day, just to make sure that they could survive. You get to walk into a grocery store and buy whatever you want to it. That 8 to 5 job that you hate so much affords you the opportunity to not have to wake up at 4 a.m. to work the fields until sunset. Grow up. Story 59. For me, it's been investing. The daily grind is monotonous and hard, but once I started investing, I realized there was an end date coming eventually. This gives me something to look forward to and a way to focus on improving my situation. Plus, it keeps me motivated since the more money I can save, the sooner I will be financially independent. Story 60. That's the neat part, you don't. But realistically, what's the alternative? You're either born rich, win the lottery, or destined to work your entire life just to be able to afford to live. And unless you don't mind being homeless, digging through dumpsters for scraps, or begging on the streets, your only choice is waste your life working for someone else's profit. Story 61. I enjoy my work. Yes, it can be very frustrating, and sometimes it feels like there's never-ending hoops to jump through. But at its core, I enjoy what I am doing. I am satisfied by the challenge. I then drive home in a car I've always wanted and get to live in my own space that I've set up just the way I want it. Some evenings I'll cook something I want to eat. Others I'll head down to the bar for a beer and some food with my friends. I'll go home and watch Netflix that I'm paying for on a TV I paid for on a comfy couch I paid for, and then go to sleep on the best mattress I've ever had. All that to say, you have to understand that the workday, while dreary, enables you to have the rest of your life that you can take pleasure in. Qualifier. I'm very lucky to be financially stable. My advice absolutely does not apply to people who are struggling, and I won't deign to give advice on a difficult life that I know nothing about. Story 62. You could ask the same question during literally any point in human history. How do you work in the fields farming from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. and most weekends except for Sunday and not feel like you're wasting your life? How do you hunt in the forest from dawn to dusk, sometimes not coming back for days and not feel like you're wasting your life? How do you spend your days scavenging, hunting, and foraging on the plains on Africa, sometimes finding absolutely nothing, and not feel like you're wasting your life? What kind of life would specifically make you feel like you're not wasting it? You could be a king and still feel this way. You could be rich and still feel this way. You can never work and still feel this way. Story 63. I had $20K in student loans, was driving a car that was falling apart at the seams, and applied to 70 jobs in this field before I ended up with this one. Before this, I worked part-time in retail, and that was wasting my life. Here, I actually use the stuff I went to college for, and it's paid better than any other job I've had. It's really laid back, everyone is friendly. If I find in 5 years that it feels soul-crushing, I'll just go do something else. Story 64. I do things after work during the week and keep in contact with people through the day. I enjoy my work, and really enjoy my days off and the money they pay me. Life isn't all about the happy parts. It's also about how you work towards getting to those happy parts. No glory in the grind, but working towards a better you is exciting for me. What you do is not who you are. It's what you do to supplement who you are. So figure out who you are, and then everything else just sort of helps that person out. And work becomes a means to help that person out, and not some sort of punishment. Perspective is everything. If you only focus on the bad, that's all you'll ever see. Story 65. I love my work. I'm in academic research in a group with a head that values work-life balance. Our research topic is super interesting, personal opinion, and I have motivated colleagues. Our PhD students are in a healthy mental state, which is incredibly rare. Money is decent enough, so that's why I don't feel like I'm wasting my life, I guess. If I would win a decent lottery jackpot, it would maybe work a day a week less, but I'll keep working this job. Story 66. I leave for work at 6 a.m., half-hour commute to school. School day ends at 2, but I'm usually there until 3 p.m. or so, working with students or doing administrative stuff. Half an hour home, and even if that means I'm not home until 5 p.m., there's still several hours before sleepy time. I do stuff then, and I have weekends free. Mostly, there's often a few hours of correcting, planning, and general chores. The summer off thing is also a myth. I have saved lives. I have inspired young women and men to become scientists and engineers. I have led creatives and artists. At Christmas, I get visits from alumni, and I've been doing this for 33 years. So now they bring their kids and their spouses. Last Christmas, a former student brought his 18-year-old daughter, a senior in high school herself, and had tea with me in my kitchen, and they told me all about her college and life plans. So many families, so many thank yous, so many hugs. And there's many that I never hear from again. I'm sure I've inspired or influenced them, even if just a little bit. I've been to weddings, funerals, a couple of christenings. It's certainly not for everyone, and some weeks it's frustrating as hell, but I have never questioned whether or not I was wasting my life. I have an advanced education. The respect that comes with building a professional reputation as a leader, an innovator, an educator, and a creative. A state retirement plan on top of whatever SSI looks like in a decade. A medical plan so good that my cancer surgery and all the CAT scans that came with it didn't cost a dime. I bring home an annual salary that's grown to 6 figures over the years, and I cultivate my side hustles in the summer. I travel, I love, I play with my dog, and I get to watch my 2 beautiful sons grow and raise their own families. And you dare to suggest I've wasted my life? Story 67. Wasting your life compared to what? At no point in human history has having a place to live, food to eat, hobbies, and so on been possible without having to work for it. For trust fund babies maybe, but for the majority we have to work to survive, always have. Even before capitalism or money, you still had to tend the field, hunt, and so on. And throughout most of human history, we've spent far more time on work and far less time on leisure than we do now. Once you come to terms with that, it's just a matter of scale and balance. How much of your life do you want to spend working versus doing something else? And what level of income and food/housing security are you comfortable with? Some people are fine working every waking minute if it means they can hoard enough wealth to impress their neighbors. Other people are fine living in a van and scrounging their change for every meal if it means they only have to work a few hours a week. Most people are somewhere in the middle. A typical full-time job means you work till to 25%, sleep till to 33%, and spend the other till to 42% doing whatever. That seems pretty balanced to me. Story 68. My work isn't a waste of time, and I do a lot of other things 5, 12, and on weekends and holidays. Working and planning has provided me with a home and the ability to provide for my family living in it. I have workshop space for hobbies even. Sure, I can't do those for 40 hours a week, but that leaves about 128 other hours each week. Even if I slept 8 hours a day, I'd still have 88 hours left for non-employment activities. I've got more than twice the free time as time spent at work.